Right. We're here today with Clint Franklin from fucking Recorruptor.
What's up, man?
What's up? How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, thanks. Appreciate you, taking some time out of your Sunday evening to hang out and bullshit with me.
Yeah, of course, man. Anytime. You've been a longtime supporter of the band, and I always appreciate that.
Fuck yeah. Yeah. I guess I found out about you at a Battlecross show.
Yeah, what? Probably Winter Warriors, the 2016, 15
Ma-
or 16, something like that. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that's what it was. Yeah,
yeah, one of those.
it's about when I got acquainted with a lot of the Battlecross fans unite people.
Right on.
hmm
So, I'm gonna start from the beginning. What made you say, I want to go into music?
Um, well, that's tough. Because I did a lot of musical theater when I was in school. As young as 8 years old, probably. So I've always been pretty ingrained in music, which is my family says a little weird because there's nobody that's really musically inclined in within my family. So it just kind of came out of nowhere. But I didn't start doing anything band related until I was probably 13, I would say. My dad got a guitar for Christmas, and just my mom got it for him, and he never played with it, and I kind of just started picking it up and learning all the, Smoke on the Water and Thunderstruck and, all that kind of stuff and whatever, and it just took off. And got my first guitar my first actual guitar when I was 14, and just been playing in bands ever since. It wasn't until I joined my first real band that wasn't doing that was actually doing originals and stuff, that I started doing like vocals for that kind of stuff, and it was really just out of necessity. All my friends were getting into it and starting bands, and I was like, oh yeah, if you want to another guitarist, I'd definitely be down and whatever. And they were like, no way, loser. We already got another guitarist.
Thanks,
But we
buddy.
need a singer. We need a singer. And I was like, I guess I could try that and whatever. And I kind of just went from there.
Right on. That's when the shirt came off. You're like,
That's
all right.
right. Yeah, I never used to do that with my old band, but as soon as I joined Recorruptor, that was all I was doing. I don't know if there's a correlation in the fact that once I joined Recorruptor, I started gaining a lot of weight and started getting sweatier on stage, and then had a necessity to take the shirt off or not. But
So did that correlate with who is now your wife? Like,
um, a couple years after
okay.
that, So yeah, she
Yeah.
likes it too.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So she's into metal. You guys like go to a lot of shows, do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. She's into metal. She's always been into metal. She hasn't always been into my type of metal. And never went to shows before. Um, we started. I was actually her first concert ever.
Oof.
Playing because we used to work together. That's how we met.
Okay.
Um, we used to work together, and I convinced her to come out and see a show, and it was kind of it from there. And
Hell,
we go to shows all the time. She loves it.
hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's my wife is she's a hippie,
Oh, word.
but she goes to a lot of metal shows. Like of course we don't get to see Battlecross anymore, but she would love
Yeah.
going to see Battlecross. She loves Goat Whore live.
Yeah.
Like, and it's funny to go from Grateful Dead and like Dave Matthews to that.
Right. Yeah, I feel it. And she's got the other side where she's, you know, blaring Beyonce or one of her musicals, or, any, like, she listens to everything. Not country. We don't fuck with that here,
Yeah.
but
No, no, no country. Get out of here with that.
that's right.
That's funny shit.
Yeah.
So when did was Recorruptor already together? when you joined, or was it like you were like, hey, I want to do this thing with a bunch of your friends?
Yeah, no, they were already together. I wouldn't necessarily say they were established, but they were together. Dustin, the original guitarist, um he used to watch my old band all the time. So that's kind of how he started getting into the music thing and started Recorruptor with some other dudes. At the time, he was like 13, maybe 13, 14 years old, somewhere in that realm. So he was real young and he had, dudes that were in that realm. So while he was kind of just starting, with some dudes that were also just simply interested in starting something like that, I was already seasoned in doing this for a few years. Um and at the time I was booking shows in the Lansing area, specifically Uli's House of Rock, quite a bit. Um and I had a show where I had a Florida band coming up and needed some support, and Dustin had not, done a show yet in Lansing, or well, I think they did a couple shows in Lansing, maybe at Max or something. But they hadn't done anything like big, and this was supposed to be like a bigger show. So, I put him on the show, and at the time their vocalist went missing for whatever reason. Um, and yeah, they just lost contact.
He's
Just
like,
lost contact.
fuck you,
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Yeah, right. They couldn't get a hold of him. And so he was like, I don't want to cancel this show. And I was like, well, fuck it. I just left my other band. I don't care about filling in on vocals for a set. I'm already gonna be there, so might as well. So I did that. And it felt good enough to where I was just like, yeah, if you can't figure out where your vocalist is at, I'll just I'll just do it. You know what I mean? And that's kind of how that came to be. So
That's
so at the time it was just Dustin and myself with another drummer named Drew who was also Dustin's age. So it was, the couple of 13-year-olds and then me who was, a college student or just out of college or something like that. Um, so it was just us for a three-piece for a while, and then Seth. I played with Seth for the longest time in my old band because we grew up together, and he wasn't because I had exited the previous band. He was still kind of doing it a little bit, and they didn't really end up like doing anything else. So he was just like, "Yeah, I'll just join up and
well,
get that working."
he said, I'll join you and the kids and let's do something.
That's right. Those are some pretty crazy days. They're really talented.
Yeah,
From the get go, and full of fire. And um, there was a fun period of the band, and yeah,
yeah. And then everyone grows up and things change and
right.
the band keeps going.
Right,
So,
yeah, because Dustin's not even in the band anymore, so he hasn't been in the band for a few years now. So now, I mean, there's not, if you want to be technical, there's no original members in the band anymore, but everybody that's in the band has been on all the records anyway, so
right.
it's not, it's kind of
Yeah,
like an Opeth situation where Michael Ackerfeld's not really a member, an original member of the band, but I mean, we all know it's his band anyway. So,
for sure. Yeah. Well, that's cool. So, uh, what led up to like when did the first album get released?
so Blood Moon dropped in 2017, October of 2017. And I would say five of the eight songs that are on that, well, it's nine tracks, but the first one's an intro. Um, so five of the eight songs were songs that we had been playing in that original lineup with myself and Dustin and Drew and Seth. Um, Drew eventually left the band to pursue other things in life, and that's when we ended up getting acquainted with Josh, who, Summon, of course, big, black metal band in the area throughout the 90s and early 2000s. Um, so we got him on board, and it was like a total game changer. All the songs ended up getting revamped and reworked so that way it matched with the technicality that he was bringing to the band. And then for the longest time, it was just us. It was just us four, and we never really had a solid bassist until Alex came along. We had a couple of guys that like was in or played a couple of shows with us for a minute, and it didn't really work out. But once Alex came in, we finally rounded up the lineup. And when Alex came in, that was his first show, was the Battlecross show. So and if I recall right, that was either sold out or just close to sold out. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a crazy show to be your first show ever. And he never played in the band before either, so that was
Oh yeah.
crazy for him.
That's that's a hell of a first show. And those crowds, like they always get a little rowdy.
Right. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep. And I think it was our second time in Detroit too. Um, because a few months previous we had played the same spot with cattle decapitation and nobody really knew who we were at the time. Um, and we played first, so we played to a crowd, but not nearly as big of a crowd as what ended up being that night. Um, so we had people there that ended up latching onto the band pretty hard, and one of those people was um Tiron from Battlecross, and Don, of course, Don really liked us too. I'm pretty sure they were the two people that were there that night. So um we got Alex on board. He did that show and he was like, "Cool, what's next?" And I was like, "All right, we're recording next month." So he really got
Surprise.
put, yeah. So he really got put through the ringer fast. And we did that up in Sparta, which is north of Grand Rapids. Um, Spent about, I think it was 3 weekends doing that. Um, so I would say, I mean, probably a total of 6 or 7 days recording the album. And yeah, we dropped it in 2017 and didn't, yeah, I think it was about 3 years until the next one. But that first record definitely got our name out there a little
Yeah.
bit, even if, in my personal opinion, it doesn't have the greatest sound. It's still, the talent's there. I feel like you can hear Dustin's raw playing bleeding through it, and I mean Josh's drums still sound good and whatever.
Well,
Um
I think people often want to wait till everything sounds perfect and it's really perfect to get something out there. And
mhm.
they're always so critical. It never really happens.
Yeah.
Right. And then you've got bands who you've got to start somewhere. So you throw something out and you look back, when it comes out, you're like, awesome. Right. We got something
Hmm.
out. And then you look
Yeah.
back and you go, oh man, it could be better here and there. And
Well, yeah, I agree with you. And in that way too, that really was where we were at with it, was we'd been playing Dustin had been playing the Lansing circuit since 2013, and we've been playing, as a unit since 2014. We've been, around, and we needed something on tape for sure. I think we had home recorded maybe three, or it was like 4 or 5 songs or something, and kind of put that out on Bandcamp and whatever. But it was just basement demo stuff, so no biggie. And we handed it out for free, just at wherever we were at, get the name
yeah.
out there a little bit. But once we got the record out, that definitely made people pay attention a lot more. I think people, even if it doesn't sound the greatest, people were more concerned with, wow, this is a Michigan band that had that. I mean, they're going blisteringly fast because, I mean, if anybody's ever heard Josh play, he's insanely fast. And you know, obvious Black Dahlia influence there. and big time cattle decapitation, stuff like that. And that wasn't really going on at the time. There was a lot of, you know, there were a lot of bands that were more leaning towards deathcore style.
Mhm.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And that's kind of, sorry, tripping over my words. That's going to be pretty consistent more and more as time goes on. It's just that's the big thing in metal is deathcore for sure. Um, that being said, there's been a lot more of a market for what we do um, in the last 10 years, especially. A lot of bands have emerged in popularity that might have been overlooked in favor of more deathcore oriented bands. But yeah, at the time there wasn't a lot of bands doing what we were doing in the scene, and now a lot of bands are, kind of following suit with that stuff too. Um,
Yeah.
I'm not saying we're some kind of trailblazer or anything like that. I'm just saying that at the time there wasn't really a big market in Michigan for what we were doing. And by the time we had released that album, we had bands like Carnus Immortalis and Throne and um it's the other one that I'm thinking of. Yeah, I'm not gonna sit here and try and rack my brain
Yeah.
about
It's
it,
like, I
but
don't know.
yeah. But I mean, those are just a couple names that come to mind, and
Yeah.
we started playing more and more with bands like that were more similar into our sound, and now we have plenty of bands that sound like that, and it's really awesome. Um, but yeah, it's it did a lot for us, and it got us on a lot of big shows, which was really cool. I appreciate that, even if I don't listen to the record as much anymore, and if we don't really play a lot of songs from it
Sure.
nowadays.
Yeah. Well, you're getting older and the sounds evolved and now you've got new songs and you really want to, focus on those because you're going to play those out, right?
Right, exactly.
So what as far as shows go, what's been like your favorite show that you guys have played?
Um, hmm. I'd probably say there's a couple of contenders. Early on, the big one, I know you mentioned Goat Whore about your
Yeah.
wife really loving Goat Whore. Our first real big gig was on my 21st birthday, and we opened up for Goat Whore at Max Bar. It was sold out, and I got to party with the band the whole night, like till like 3 a.m. It was crazy. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a hell
Yeah,
of a way to
Sammy.
ring in 21
Yeah, Sammy knows how to get after it, that's for sure.
oh yeah.
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 So that was really cool. They were really awesome with us. And I think that was probably the moment when a lot of people took notice to us in the Lansing scene too, because we'd been gigging here and there. But that was like the first time when we were on a lineup that really made sense to us because it was them and um, a thrash band out of Missouri called Blackfast.
Oh, I like them.
Yeah, Blackfast was on it. And then us and Genesaya at the time was a local band. Um, that was they've been around for a long time. A couple of those dudes are in Centenary now.
Centenary. Yeah.
Yeah, yep. So when we played that show, especially with having sold over half the tickets ourselves, and then the other half of the room not really knowing who we were, I think a lot of people took notice to that, and showed how much of a force we were to be reckoned with at the time. So that would probably be number one. I would say the other one would probably be opening for Cannibal Corpse at the intersection because that was
Right
the
on.
first time we'd done like a big show like that. We'd opened for big bands before like that, like Cattle and Battle Cross, and um, we did Morbid Angel and Suffocation, but that was at the Crowfoot, and we were on a side stage, so it wasn't really. What up, Kitty?
That's
um,
that's Sophia.
Yay, Sophia, pretty girl. Um, but that was like we'd asked or we'd we'd emailed to be on the show when they announced it would be support because it was Cannibal, Hate Eternal, and Harm's Way. And
Right
they
on.
said they wanted a local because it was like a Tuesday night to help bring in some ticket sales and whatnot. Um, and we'd only played the intersection once before that. My old band played there a couple of times, so I had some connections there. Um, but Recorruptor only ever played there once in the front room for like a multi-genre bash all day thing that didn't really make sense for us to be on, but it was we wanted to play Grand Rapids, so
Yeah.
we did it. Um, so we didn't really expect to get on it, especially with how many, like obviously no shade at the guys, but we knew Withhold the Blood got a lot of those shows at the time. Withhold the Blood was really big from the Muskegon area, and they were getting a lot of the bigger shows, and we knew there were a couple other bands that were pretty good mainstays at the intersection. And then apparently one of the security guards that knew us vouched for us really hard, and they sent us the email, and I freaked out. I freaked out. And it was almost sold out. It was over 1,000 people in there, and I never played anything like that before,
Hell yeah.
ever. And we were the only local band, so that was really cool for us.
So, how was the crowd when you guys took the stage?
Surprisingly good. Most bands don't, you know what I mean? Like obviously why you asked the question, because most opener bands don't really elicit that much of a reaction unless there's something super special, you know what I mean? But we sold quite a bit of tickets for it. We only had like 2 weeks to do it too. But as soon as we announced the show, everybody was like, "Yeah, I'm absolutely going now. There's not a question." So we sold a lot of tickets for it in the first place. And I think I don't know if just people knew us more than we anticipated, or if we really just did impress that much, but we couldn't walk 5 feet in one direction the entire night without getting stopped by somebody. It was
I'll
it
I'll
was
I'll
surreal.
tell you from my first experience seeing you guys, it's because you guys elicited that fucking response, right? You're a tremendous, tremendous band, and the live show is fantastic.
Thanks, man. I really appreciate that. We work really hard to give a show because I mean, that's what you're paying for. You know what I mean? I don't want to watch somebody up there and stand around like a bunch of dicks. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? So,
right.
so that's what you got to do. But yeah, there were plenty of people there that whole night. I mean, there were a number of people that thought we were on the tour. That's how it was, and I was just like, oh, we're just so how far you gotta drive to the next place? And I was like, I'm fucking sleeping in my bed in Lansing tonight, dude.
That's awesome.
I don't know what you're talking about,
So,
but yeah,
well, that those sound like two fucking tremendous shows,
yeah,
right? And I know you guys just played last night, right?
yep. Just playing in Kalamazoo, a place called the Up and Under with Boreworm and Mouthful of Locusts out of the Kalamazoo area. They're doing pretty hot right now, and um, like a mathcore hardcore band called Dead Hour Noise from the Lansing area. We played with them a long time too. That was pretty cool. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was a good time.
that math core is crazy.
Yeah, yeah. And they do it real well.
Right on.
You'll
So, so we've been through first album show.
hmm
You guys put out what, two albums, and then you've
Yep.
got a couple of singles.
Yep. So we did well, we actually recorded the Funeral Corridor, the second album, in 2019, but it didn't come out until mid 2020, because of, well, a lot of reasons. Um, so we went in and we did the album in 2019, and it took a while to get everything like mixed and mastered. Um, and getting the sound of what we wanted. And we were kind of having some internal problems too, which ended up leading to Dustin's exit from the band. Um, so getting that all figured out was a bit of an obstacle because we know we wanted to make sure that if we did the album release, we wanted to play off of it and we needed to find somebody that was right for the job. So in yeah, the beginning of 2020, Dustin left or exited the band, and we got Caleb um on board, and we are like, okay, now we can get this figured out, get the you know promo schedule out there to get this done, and then COVID hit. So then we were like, well, do we want to release an album during COVID? Do we really want to do something like that? Because we won't be able to play off of it. We, how many people are really going to take notice to this? But eventually we just decided that, I mean, it's kind of pointless to just sit on it at this point. We have this whole thing that's just waiting to get out there to the internet, and I don't see why we shouldn't just put it out and see what people say, and then if there ever comes a time in which we can actually play on it, we'll play on it. And it did good. We got some good promo from it. Metal Injection picked it up, No Clean Singing picked it up. A few, quite a few Invisible Oranges, I think, picked it up. So we got some good attention off of it, and a lot of good streaming numbers, especially for just a local band. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who hasn't toured either. So it was good. Um, we finally got to play on it in like mid late 2021, if I'm not mistaken. I don't remember whenever they lifted it. I don't remember when it was when they lifted it. Um, and we played on it a bit, and we've done good shows since then. Yeah, it's been cool. We did a couple videos for it, and those launched off pretty good. And yeah, and then we
Nice.
yeah just did one more single with Caleb last year, Malediction Upon the Holy,
Yeah.
and he shreds his ass off on it. So and that got us a little bit got people talking a little bit too. Especially since it had been a couple years since we'd released the album.
Yeah.
We figured, well, we've already got all this stuff written. Let's just record one, get it out there so people, still remember we're a thing, especially after not having played for so long and whatnot. So, yeah, no, it was good.
So
And
you
now
guys got plans to like record more of what you've got written?
so we're actually in the studio right now. Um, we have 10 more. We have 10 more that we're going to put on record. And yeah, it'll be good because probably by the time that it will release, it'll have been 4 years since the Funeral Corridor. So
Oh
we've
wow.
taken our time. Well, it's been a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
um, because with the whole COVID thing, we took a lot of time to write a lot of this stuff. I think probably 7 of the 10 songs that are on the record we wrote during that period. Um, a lot different now than they were. They were pretty bare bones back then, but that's all right. It is what
Yeah.
it is. You start with something and you flesh it out until it's what you feel like it is the best it can be. But then once, COVID restrictions lifted, we decided we wanted to, kind of shelve that for a second and get back to playing so that way we can, garner that attention again. And then Caleb kind of started to have some issues with playing on stage, like a stage anxiety and whatnot. And I get that, it happens, it's no big deal. He wasn't playing and we were trying to figure out, like a live replacement guitarist because we still wanted him to be a part of the band. He still had interest in being part of the band, um, in a writing aspect and recording aspect. So we were, kind of bouncing back and forth between a couple of fill-in guitarists and whatnot. And then, we started to, really talk about getting this album recorded and out and whatnot. And well, then Caleb and his wife got pregnant, and so he was dealing with that. And then eventually decided that's where he wanted to, prioritize his life was in that kid. So now he's doing that, and he's not with Recorruptor anymore, and we support him for that 100%. I get it. I wouldn't never ask anybody to put their own child in front of me screaming into a microphone, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So so no, we still love him 100%. But we just ultimately decided we'll just, trek on and, do this as a four piece for now until the right person comes along.
Right on. Well, I'm sure you guys will find that, someone that fits really well. It's I think some bands, I was going to say a lot, but some bands really try to, force something, and you can tell, right? Hey, this person joined the band and they left the band.
Yep.
Like, take your time, get the right person.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Um, that's ultimately what we've been talking about too, is that we just want somebody that meshes well with the band. We don't even care if they're the greatest thing in the world. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I mean, if we're being honest, if we find a guitarist that's as good as Caleb, I will be so surprised. Caleb is a once in a lifetime guitarist. It's not even close. He's just insane. Um, but I'd rather have somebody that um I'd rather have somebody that meshes with us better and, can still obviously play the stuff. Somebody who wants to, really contribute to the band and stick with the band for, a long time.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. I mean, that's key, right? Because you
mhm.
guys, the band is really like a family. And if you don't mesh well, it kind of comes out on stage.
Oh yeah, a bunch of brothers that you love to hate.
Yeah. Yeah.
No,
I mean, look at Oasis, right?
right. Oh boy. Yeah, they really can't get their shit together, can't they?
No, but it is what it is.
Mhm.
They did their thing, and now it's like, brothers,
Yeah.
get away, get away. I don't like you. Uh,
Right, yo.
so, uh, hold on. Okay, last album you said 4 years, so last album was 2020. So you're planning on that album coming out this year?
Yep, that's the intention.
Okay.
I think we're
Uh,
pretty hard pressed on that.
yeah. Well, I mean, you're already recording, right? You still got 11 and a half months to go. So,
Yep. Yeah,
but
we'll probably spend the next 2 months recording, but we're only doing it on weekends, so
sure, because,
busy.
life.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, you're gonna do physical copies, right?
Yep. Yep.
S-
I don't think we could ever get away from that, no matter how much the world changes.
Right. No, I don't think so either. I don't, I understand bands that only do digital, but I'm a physical copy kind of person.
And I think a lot of the people that are within our realm of the metal scene are always going to be, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just there's something way more palpable about holding it in your hands and looking at all the liner notes and really seeing all the effort that got put into making this physical package, what it is. Um and there's just not that kind of substance in a lot of other styles of music. It's we were talking about it not too long ago. I don't know if you are you into Mastodon at all?
Yeah, I like Mastodon.
So do you have any of their, like older albums in their physical copies and whatnot?
Leviathan for sure.
Yeah. Okay, so that's a great example too. Because we were jamming out and I brought my Leviathan vinyl with me and I'd never opened it before and I was absolutely blown away with how detailed it is. I mean, it's not just beyond the normal original art that's on there. It's got the whole full spread
Yeah.
of like a much bigger picture of it and it lines the entire booklet, the entire gatefold. It's just way cool and it gave me, I mean, it's silly because I've loved the record for, oh boy, 15, 16 years now, probably since I found out the band.
Yeah.
But they gave me a whole new appreciation for that stuff, and I think that's really important.
Yeah. I don't think that's silly at all, right? Like, I'm a little bit older. I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and it was, my first experiences with music were these big black vinyl.
Yeah.
You know, you pull it out and like, I gotta think, probably the first album, the first vinyl I actually bought was Motley Crue Girls, Girls, Girls.
Nice, nice.
Right. So you pull it out, you're reading, you're obviously looking at the ass, but
Yeah.
you read everything. Like, okay, who produced it? Who are they thinking in here? Oh, what are the lyrics to this song? And that was, you know, that that for me is why I like the physical copy so much. Is it's the artist puts it out there. It's not like going to YouTube and going, okay, what do they say the lyrics are for this song? Like you can actually, see it.
Right. Yeah. No, it's really important to me. 100%. It always will be. Um, so yeah. No, physical copies will definitely happen. CDs at least. We're looking into vinyl, but we all know how expensive that is. So
Oh, well, I have an idea.
yeah. But
Uh, well, if you wanted to get into vinyl, with a lower cost threshold, one of the things you can do is you can look at doing singles, right? Just putting out, grabbing a couple of songs and maybe taking some things from way back and putting them on the B side,
right. Yeah, that's
because you can get those done for, uh, I mean, if you do a smaller run, you're probably looking at $7 or $8 a pop to get it done.
yeah, right. Yeah, if we were to do like a 7 inch or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I feel that. I've heard some pretty decent deals. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Bandcamp does this thing where you can set up a pre-order for them
Hmm.
and they'll print based off of how many pre-orders you get
That's
and
pretty
then
cool.
send it out to you. I don't know. I heard about that happening a couple years ago. I don't know if they ever like went through with it or not, but that's a thing,
Yeah.
maybe.
Well, and if that's what you're looking at, if you wanted to do like a pre-order and say, okay, we have to hit this threshold in order to print them.
Yeah. And
Uh,
we've always had a really good, like, we've always had a pretty easy time getting rid of merch fast, you know. Anytime we play, we usually do real well with selling that stuff. So having vinyl on the table would be really cool for us because we know there's a lot of people. I mean, more now than has been in a long time
yeah.
that that love the vinyl. So
Well, yeah,
I don't see.
vinyl's outselling the CDs.
Yeah,
Has been for a few years now.
I get it.
Yeah, me too. As I sit here and look at my vinyl collection, like,
Right.
and I'm that guy that if there's a band I really like and there's vinyl, and even if it's one album, if they have five variants, I want all five variants. Like I
Yeah.
want, like, which is, for a band, I feel like that's a really great, it's a great avenue to have some income for the band because, you look at streaming, you know, you don't you don't make shit streaming.
No. No. And that's yeah, that's a whole thing too, you know what I mean? Like it's a double-edged sword. I mean, it really screws more famous people, you know, or more popular acts than it does locals. I know the smaller guy wants to complain about the way that, you know, they don't get paid for that kind of stuff. And I mean, if we're really getting down to the nitty and gritty, I think everybody should get paid properly for what they're doing. It's a lot of work to do it. It's a lot of stress. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time. And everybody should get their fair share in that regard. That
Oh,
being said, I, as a small time musician, would never have gotten the kind of reach that I do without that kind of stuff.
yeah.
We got our Spotify stats last year and it said we were played in over like 80 some countries.
Hell yeah.
And we never would have gotten that without, Spotify or Apple Music or, streaming in general. We
Yeah.
never would have gotten that kind of stuff without the internet. And so I guess at that point it kind of just falls on hoping that, the powers that be run into some kind of Ebenezer Scrooge moment where they see three ghosts and realize they need to do the right thing and pay up what they should
Yeah.
be paying up, but we know how
Yeah.
the world works.
Well, and it's well, especially now, right? What did Spotify say? If you're not at a thousand monthly listeners, you're not getting shit,
Yeah, you're not getting anything.
right?
Which, I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like,
If you're not getting, that's just my opinion. If you're not getting 1,000 monthly listeners on your shit, then you're probably not quite ready for any of that yet. It's
yeah.
not, maybe that's just me being cocky, I guess, but it hasn't been difficult for us to reach that level.
Yeah. I mean, and it's different, right? It's different for every band because there are a lot of bands out there. I had three or four send me some stuff today, and I listened to it. Like one band, I put it on, and I got about 30 seconds in, and I was like, nope, I
Yep.
just
Nope.
I can't. Like
Yep.
I did get one from the Netherlands that sent me some music, and oh man,
Blown
uh,
away.
oh yeah, it was so great, just so thrashy, and I
Ooh.
I literally only got one song in, and it was like, holy shit! Like I'll dig into them more tomorrow.
Yeah,
Velo
send me that for sure.
for sure, dude. Uh,
Yeah.
I think it's
I'm always
Veloza.
looking.
Oh, dude,
Filosa? No,
yeah,
not familiar.
no, yeah, no, me neither. And I'm like, I posted in some group like, hey, just looking for some more bands to interview. And this guy's like, do you just want US based? Or are you good with Netherlands? I was like, dude, if you got good music, I will totally talk with you.
Nice.
Send it. Holy shit. I'm like, that's some good stuff.
Yeah.
I did just find In Morning. Are you
Oh,
familiar?
mm-hmm. Yep.
God,
Yeah, they're fantastic.
yeah.
Just
Like
kind of they
just so damn good. I'm like, as soon as I was listening to The Absence and ran across them.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely it. I mean, not quite as not quite as uppity as the absence is, but yeah,
Right.
definitely same, similar vibes.
Yeah. So, well, and yeah, similar. Um, I don't even know. It was just like it listened to the all of the Absence discography, and then, Spotify rolls through all these other bands.
Yeah.
All right, Kat, come on. She's like, give me attention.
Usually
Uh,
usually mine's over here too. I don't know where she's at.
but
G'day.
yeah, so Sophia usually just curls up next to me and like lays there while I'm sitting here talking.
Yeah.
And it's like every night, like tonight, she looks at me and she's like, okay, it's time. Come on. And
Yeah.
she runs downstairs and I'm like, you got a little bit, kid. I'll be there soon.
Right.
So what bands have you ran into recently that you're really, really into?
Um, hmm, let me see. I know the first one that comes to mind I actually listened to today. If you're into any sort of at the gates style,
Oh yeah.
Upon Stone is what they're called, and I mean, it's by the numbers at the gates worship. It's just right along that alley, but it doesn't sound like rip off. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Like it's got its own identity.
Yeah.
I I mean, I guess maybe it's a little too early to say because I just listened to it today, but I like it better than anything that At the Gates has put out since Slaughter of the Soul.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I like those records too. So
Yeah.
so I mean it's got really infectious melodies and the solos are sick. Oh yeah, it's so good. Sorry, I'm pulling up my Apple Music to
Uh,
see what I've been into because me, I've always got everything going on. Oh, let's see here.
me too, kind of all over
Um,
the board.
yeah. Well, I mean, I guess as far as 2023 goes, my highlights were the new Suffocation. I definitely fuck with that heavy.
Hell
I
yeah.
think I think their new guy is a great fit, and I don't think they could have found anybody that gave me that same feeling as the first time I heard Frank Mullen,
Right.
do his vocals. I thought it was, yeah, that was really good. Sang with Sugabog was real big if you like that meat and potatoes death metal. It's just, I mean, it makes you feel like a caveman. it's
Hell yeah.
it's
Well,
real good.
and they just had that thing with Ronnie Radke, right?
Oh boy, yeah, yeah. I think it's still going if I'm not mistaken, but
Probably.
um I'd like to see it happen. That's just me. But um
Be funny as shit.
yeah, that's for sure. Let's see here. In the more black metal realm, I really liked I'm probably gonna butcher this name, but Dodheimsgard. They put out a record called Black Medium Current. That's a lot more than just black metal.
Okay.
It's obviously that at heart, but there's a lot of different types of sounds in there. Um, a lot of industrial beats and a lot of jazz going on. It's a very eclectic mesh of sounds for sure. I thought that was probably my most adventurous record of last year.
Okay.
Um, and Dying Fetus, as always, they were real good. I'm sure there's plenty. I mean, you know
Sure,
me.
for
I'm
sure.
always listening to stuff. So
Yeah. Yeah. Go, I was just talking uh there's a band from Louisville, Stonecutters.
Stonecutters. Yep, I know those guys.
Yeah, so Brian's a buddy of mine.
Hmm.
Well, he was telling me about his My Own Victim days.
Okay.
So so back in probably 90, I think he said 92, they played a festival in Dayton, and it was Internal Bleeding, My Own Victim, Dying Fetus, and and a bunch, a bunch of others. And it's so funny because like all those bands started right about then.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That real, what's known as slam. You know what I mean? If you
Yeah,
want to call that a genre, to me, slam is just a style of riff. um, which obviously a lot of those bands like Internal Bleeding and Pyrexia, Dying Fetus utilized a lot of that.
yeah,
Um, obviously leaned into that hard, that style of riffing, but really, brutal death metal is what's most accurate. But yeah, no, that's really fucking cool to hear about that. That's a dream.
yeah.
I could only imagine seeing that in its infancy like that.
Yeah, same, right? Like that probably would have been just fucking nuts to witness, right? And to not only witness it, but be a part of it. I'm like, all right, Brian, you know.
Yeah. Right. No, I get it. Josh is the same exact way with all the bands that he's talked about and played with over the years. He always tells me one of the big ones that I always remember him talking about was when Summon played um I don't remember if it was here in Michigan or like it might have been at Harpo's or something.
Hmm.
A big show with a bunch of death metal bands, a bunch of prominent death metal bands at the time, and Lamb of God, who was very young at the time. I think they might have had New American Gospel out.
Okay.
Um, and he said that everybody on the bill was like almost like picking on them. Yeah, was almost like picking on them because it was like all this, satanic death metal, black metal shit, and then there's a band called Lamb of God.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? But he said as soon as they went on and played, I mean, it was no contest. You know what I mean? Like
right.
everybody could tell there was a reason why they were there. So he got to, hang out with Chris Adler, and they got to, fart around the drums and, show each other shit and whatnot. But he always has stories like that, Lamb of God and Origin, and he's known those guys for the longest time. um, the day that COVID hit, we were playing with Origin and Defeated Sanity in Detroit, like we had gotten the news that night after we had stepped off stage that everybody has to
That
once you leave here, you have to go home and you are gonna stay home. And that's it.
like, no, I don't want
Yeah.
to. Yeah,
But that whole night we got to hang out with those Origin guys and they remembered Josh and it was a cool whole time and whatever. So um yeah, it's cool being able to know and hang out with somebody like that had those experiences back in the day and got to see the formation of what we know
right.
as metal and whatnot. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and, you take a band like Lamb of God, obviously they're as big as they are because of how they do it,
Yeah,
right? And
absolutely.
they went from uh almost changing a new inception, right? A new musical inception with every album. And I think like the albums now are almost like copy paste.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. Especially, sorry,
Hi, Kitty.
this is Chloe.
Hi, Chloe.
Yeah, pretty girl. Um, I no, I absolutely agree with you. I think so when Lamb of God came out, and well, I might be a little, I guess, a little young for this at the time too, because I didn't really get into them until Wrath was the new thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That was when I was in 10th grade, maybe 2010, right? 2010 or 2011, something
Yeah,
like
something
that.
like that.
So I would have been a sophomore or junior in high school still. But that was, I mean, when Lamb of God rose to prominence, especially with Ashes of the Wake, and they started really dominating, America and eventually the world with Sacrament. Um, a lot of bands took notice to that, and then you started to see a lot of copycat bands like that, and that just happens. That's just normal.
Oh
That's been
yeah.
throughout all of time. A band comes up and really changes the game, and then there's a legion of copycats that follow along with that. And especially as we go, more in time, and it's harder and harder to come up with something or truly original, that's always going to happen. You know what I mean? Like, I still always acknowledge that Recorruptor is just a basis of what our influences are. We're not doing anything like absolutely unique. We just know how to have fun and we know how to play good. It's not, we don't think we're changing the world or anything. And I know that's the case for a lot of bands. Um,
Yeah,
that being,
I think most bands, right? They get together because they want to have fun and they are inspired by other bands, right? Like
mhm,
it's you take four or five, even three people, whatever, come together and write songs, and the band itself ends up being the sum of everything that inspires all of them. That's
yeah,
why, right? You get a new member and the sound changes a little bit, right? You going from like look at Metallica, from Cliff to Jason to Rob, right?
hmm
Those inceptions changed.
yeah, it's an insane. Metallica could have put out the same record for 40 years and they would have been just fine. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But the fact that they have changed so much over the years, especially starting, I mean, even as early as Justice, I mean, it's not like Justice is the same as the other ones before,
even look at Kill 'Em All,
Well,
right?
right, exactly.
You
I
got
mean, Ride the Lightning is such an intense step up in that department. I mean, you're a fan of Metallica in 1983, you wouldn't have guessed the next year they would have put out a ballad. You know
right,
what I mean?
right.
Like they've always been ahead of the curve in terms of, well, maybe not the last couple albums, but that's that's just me. They've earned it. They can do whatever they want at this point. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
Um
I actually like what was the last album?
well, the newest one or the one before that?
But well, the one before it was Hardwired.
Yeah, and then 72 Seasons was the
That's
last
right.
one.
Yeah,
It's good, like they play well, and I just, It's a little by the numbers for my taste, but that's okay. You know,
Sure.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't necessarily matter how I feel about it. They still sell really well and they're still packing out arenas and
Yeah, which
they're
is
doing something right. You know what I mean?
so wild to look at. What are we? We're 40 years into, to their
Hmm.
inception, and
Yeah.
they go from sleeping in Anthrax's uh rehearsal space
Yeah.
to, now they're like,
Yeah,
come
they
on,
pretty much live in
Anthrax.
a moving hotel.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
it's wild, and it's like a city that follows them.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's no question how important that band is. They're behind Black Sabbath, the most important metal band in the world, in my opinion.
I
It's not even close.
No, I would agree with you.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Black Sabbath, Metallica, like those two of the biggest, right,
yeah.
metal
Yeah, I'd
bands
say
of
yeah, Sabbath, Metallica, and Maiden are probably the three most important
mm,
in my opinion. I guess it Maiden's influence isn't as prevalent in modern metal as it used to be, but that doesn't mean there isn't still a whole legion of kids that's trying to learn Aces High and Number the Beast and you know what
sure.
I mean? Like it's a big stepping stone
Well,
for a lot of people still.
I think you got to throw Slayer in with that too.
I would agree with that too.
You know,
Slayer, as far as extreme music goes, is probably the most important band there is. I
yeah,
don't think it's a question.
no, not at all.
It's the way, I mean, even still for like death metal becoming a thing around that time too, Rain and Blood is still heavier than a lot of those albums.
Oh
It's
yeah,
it's visceral. You can't get that kind of sound from a lot of those early death metal bands. It's not dogging it. I love all that shit. Death, Obituary, Bolt
yeah.
Thrower, stuff like that. Morbid Angel. It's whatever, you know what I mean? And that had its place and it's, still near and dear to my heart, but fuck man. Like Hell Awaits is just unreal.
My
It's
yeah, like that's one of those bands. The whole discography is just fucking fantastic, and it's
mm-hmm.
you see them progress through the years, right? And
Yeah, no, I agree. And yeah, even still, they're a band that's done it's always been unapologetically Slayer, but they've always done a good job at making it a point to have different things on each album, especially after because I mean, like I said, with Rain and Blood, it's like one of the most berating albums of all time, and they could have just gone that route the whole way through, and instead South of Heaven just slows it down a little bit. I mean, there's still some, obviously fast stuff on it, but
sure,
opening the record like that, I don't think anybody expected that at the time, And then they even doubled down on that with Seasons in the Abyss, and it's just like the whole way afterwards, it's been something different each and every time. I absolutely fucking hate it when people say that Slayer is a one-trick pony and they have done the same record over and over. It's like you guys are not listening to the same Slayer that I'm listening to, in my
yeah.
opinion.
They're not AC/DC. You know what I
No,
mean?
no, no. And even still, if having that unique of a sound is a bad thing, then fuck me, I guess. I
Right.
love AC/DC too, so
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't.
no, it's like, but they're, I just bring up
Yeah.
AC/DC. I'm not. I'm.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, no, it's no question that they have definitely written the same album 15 times. It's
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
it is the case. It is the case, but they're still AC/DC, so
Hmm. Yeah, but we've got bands who do that, right? They write the same album over and over and over again. And then we've got bands who constantly evolve, and both of them have their place. And the funniest thing is, it doesn't matter which one you are, fans fucking hate that you do
Oh yeah.
whatever that thing
Hmm.
is,
Yep. I
you
think
know?
you're either gonna, yeah, in a way, yes. I think those kind of fans are just the loudest. But you
Sure.
still have a whole entire legion of people that Well, like for tracing back to Lamb of God, it's kind of no secret that the last few albums they've pretty much been, you know, doing a lot of the same stuff and not really doing like there might be a couple tracks throughout the record where they kind of try something new and whatnot,
Yeah.
and that's dope and whatnot. But for the most part, every prevalent single on the last three albums have kind of been Lamb of God, and that's
Yeah.
not a bad thing, All the, there's a bunch of people that say, they haven't really changed it up in a long time, but I mean, they're obviously bigger than ever, so I don't really know
No, I
what
mean,
you're ever going to say to convince them to change what they're doing. You know what I
well, oh,
mean?
they're not going to. You're
No.
absolutely right there. I think especially after Randy did that, that stint in Hungary or
Mhm.
wherever he was,
Yeah.
he got out. I saw that tour when he got out, them and Hatebreed, and man,
Yeah.
you could
That's
see.
who I was talking about that the other day, that same tour, and I couldn't remember who that other band was. It was Hatebreed. Yeah.
Yeah, because Randy and Jamie are good buddies, right?
Yeah, and he's on a song of
Yeah.
theirs too
Yep.
on the is it self-titled or I think it's the self-titled. I
Okay.
don't know.
Yeah.
He's on a song of Lamb of Gods. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, um but yeah, so I mean, it is what it is. Every single you're like you said, there's a bunch of bands that are going to just stick to their formula because they know that's what works. And I mean, as long as they're having fun with it, I do not care. And Lamb
Yeah.
of God clearly seems like they're still having a good time. So
Well, and I just saw um it was probably a couple years ago, last year maybe. No, it was 22, I think. We went to Nashville and to see Megadeth, and Lamb of God was on that show.
yeah, that
Like,
was Stokes. Yeah,
yeah,
I bet that was sick.
yeah. They put on a great show, right? Every
Hmm.
time. And you it's hard to pass up, right? You go see a band. I don't care if they make the same album for the next 40 years, right? When
Yep,
it can be the same album, you keep putting on a great fucking show, I'm gonna go and see it,
100%.
you
I'm
know?
that way with Meshuggah. Meshuggah is that band for me. They could drop hot farts on a record and I'd buy it. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously if you pay attention to the music, there's a lot of different nuances within each and every record that are different, but that being said, it's always Meshuggah and that's what I love about it. Um but that being said, if a band like Mastodon stayed the same throughout the years, I probably wouldn't like that as much because what I do appreciate them is how progressive they are and how
Yeah.
they're always doing something different. They're always keeping their fans on their toes, and some people like that, some people don't. You know what I mean? But it clearly is working for them because they're
Again,
still
you know,
massive.
another great live show, right?
Yeah.
With like yep. Did you go to the Mastodon Gojira Lorna Shore?
Hmm. Yeah, I did.
Like,
Unreal.
oh man. Like,
Yeah.
so I love Mastodon. I'm a big Gojira fan,
Mm.
right? Just because they're a little bit different. So it was I did the fucking meet and greet with Gojira, and I walk in and the whole band gives me a big hug, and I'm like, oh,
So sick.
I love you guys. Like, even more now, right?
Yeah, they seem like very warm people.
They are. They are.
Yeah,
They just want, love and kindness and humanity,
nice, nice.
so but the whole fucking bill, right, is solid because Lorna Shore is solid at what they
Yes.
do.
Hmm.
And then, like when I saw him, it was Lorna Shore, then Gojira, then Mastodon.
Okay. Yeah, when I saw him, it was flip-flopped.
Okay.
So Gojira closed it out.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. So I love Gojira debatably more than Mastodon.
Okay.
It's very close.
Yeah.
They're both probably top 10 bands for me. So having that bill announced, I was like, there's no question I'll chop a leg off. I'm going.
Right.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I I would say Mastodon probably won it out for me that night, which is hard for me to say.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. I mean, but I don't know if you had the same set list that we did, but their set list was perfect. They kept the new songs, like, not, I loved the new record, but they kept the new songs. I think they maybe played three
Oh wow.
across their like 17 song set, something like that. And all of it, all the rest of it was pretty much old shit. All the stuff that I'm so big on and whatever. Um, and their lights show is insane. All of their visual effects,
Oh yeah.
everything about it, and they sounded just premium. That was my second time seeing Mastodon, and they were great both times, but that time was just insane, off the charts. Gojira also played super well, and they played a lot of my favorites that I did not expect them to play. But I don't know, man, just something about Mastodon set really hit me that time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've seen, I've probably seen Mastodon six, seven, 8 times, something like that.
yeah.
And it's a lot of times in a festival setting, and
Uh-huh.
they're great. Actually, the first time I saw them was at Louder Than Life,
Okay, nice.
and they crushed it, and I was just like, wow, all right, I'm really gonna dig into you now.
Right.
Gojira, same thing, right? First time I saw them was Louder Than Life, and I would say in Nashville when I saw that lineup, it was Gojira for me,
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
but I,
I would say, yeah, that time Mastodon was the best for me, but the time previous that I saw Gojira is a top five show for me.
oh,
So,
right on.
yeah, I saw them with Tesseract, who I don't really care about. And Car Bomb opened. Car Bomb, if you're not familiar, is it's a mathcore band, but they've got a lot more Meshuggah influence in it. Not so much the bouncy, but the polyrhythms.
Okay.
It's bonkers. If you haven't listened to it, you should. Just to say that you have, at least, if you don't like it. But but it was, yeah, those three bands, and Car Bomb only did the two shows that were surrounding us in New York.
Okay.
And it was Joe's birthday. So it was like a really big night. They played everything perfect, and it was just one of those shows where you couldn't stop moving, even if you wanted to stand still, somebody was moving you. You know
Hell
what I
yeah.
mean? It was perfect. So yeah,
Love
cool
that.
stuff for sure. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, sounds like I think we've been through about everything tonight.
Ah, I could go more.
Yeah.
I could go more and more. I like talking music, man.
Hell yeah, me too. It's
Definitely.
for me it's music started. I'm a, I'm going to tell you, I tell everyone this because it's the truth. Music started, I was a fan of Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie.
Nice.
So I saw Michael Jackson in like March of 1984 on the Thriller tour,
Wow, that's awesome.
kind of showing my age there.
Oh, come on now.
Uh, uh, but that is, I think that I attribute that to what got me into live music
Mhm.
because there's I don't think there's another performer that that's alive today that could do what Michael Jackson
No,
did,
it's not a question.
right?
It's not even a question. That was so revolutionary at that time. It still is. I mean, people still can't pull that off. Those
No.
songs are still immensely classic.
Oh yeah.
It's, that record still sells insanely well every week, which is unreal. You know what I mean? Like, same thing, like how with Metallica's success, they still sell the Black Album. They still sell copies of that like crazy every week,
Yeah.
which is insane. The
It's
album's like 30 years old.
yeah, it's God, it's got to be what, 31 or 32?
33 years old.
It's 33. Oh yeah, because it's
1991.
24. Yeah.
You know, so,
Golly.
you
That's
know.
that's I remember when that album came out, I was like, "Oh."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I get that too. There's
I think that's just, always gonna be kind of a generational thing too, because I mean, it's not my first Metallica listen, you know what I mean? I mean,
Yeah,
it's the first one I heard, but it's not my first go-to nowadays. That being said though, if I hadn't heard some of those songs at an early age, it wouldn't have formed who I
sure.
am, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think Wherever I May Roam might have been one of the first like metal songs I ever heard.
Oh wow.
Was either that or Ace of Spades.
Oh,
So yeah,
Motorhead. God, I
yeah,
love Motorhead.
Motorhead's so sick. Always will be.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I see it from that perspective, you know what I mean? It's like this is a legacy thing, that's still shared around, and it gets a lot of people into music still. That being said, if I was the type of music listener I am now, and I had experienced the Black Album at that time, if I was a Metallica fan, I probably would have fucking hated it.
Yeah. Well, so I didn't hate it. I was like I'll listen to it.
Yeah.
It's but it's not, it's like it's not like the last three. And that's why I brought up the point with like Kill 'Em All, because for so long I was one of those guys like, man, it's not early Metallica. But shit,
Hmm.
you look back at early Metallica, and early Metallica is not early Metallica, right?
Right.
You
Yeah.
go from super thrashy, Kill 'Em All, to, this orchestrated Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, right? And the super, super dark and Justice for All,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, well, we're gonna move into the Black Album. Well, shit,
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's just it's that constant evolution, you
And
know.
then, at face value too, the Black Album kind of seems like a step back. It doesn't seem like, it seems like they're playing it safe a little bit. But if anything, they took a bigger chance on that, doing
Uh,
stuff like that. You know what
Absolutely
I mean?
agree. Yeah.
It's not, it is, to me, it's not a safe album in the slightest. It takes a lot. It not only to dial it back in that way, but to dial it back and make that kind of song structure work
Yeah.
and be as influential as it is. I don't think they probably ever thought that those songs would have been as massive as they are. Who knows? You know what I mean? I'm sure they probably had it in their minds that people are gonna laugh at them for Nothing Else Matters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's clearly one of the biggest songs of all time by any artist ever. So
Oh yeah, and Unforgiven, like
yeah.
right, like they just did their thing, and regardless, right? You're right. It kind of feels like a step back, but they deserve respect because they totally stepped out of, the super heavy world that
Hmm.
they had been living in, and did that album. And Bob Rock, I feel like he brought a lot out of them that
Hmm.
they didn't necessarily know. And that's about the time James was like starting to learn to sing, and not just,
Yeah, not just, bark it the whole
yeah,
time. You know what I mean? I feel
so
you. Yeah, I definitely agree with that point about Bob Rock too. I don't think that record would have come out nearly as important if it wasn't for him.
right.
He really pushed that band big time.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes I think as a band, you need that, right? You need someone who's gonna
Yeah.
really say, hey, you need to do this and this. Like I was just talking with Keith Wampler from the Convalescence,
Hmm.
and he this last album, Harvesters of Flesh and Bone,
Yep.
right? They were planning on going to Canada and record it. Of course, COVID and all that shit happened.
Yeah.
They recorded with someone else, and what they thought was going to be just a real quick time, they essentially they
Chloe.
get.
Sorry.
Is she over there meowing at you?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Uh,
Sorry.
no, you're good. So they get they get to the studio with this new producer, and they had to redo all their pre-production. And you know, Keith says he really feels like the new guy helped them get to that next level as a band, which is
Yeah, I agree with that too, because we supported them on um one of their release shows on that tour.
Yeah.
The little small run they just did in November with Volcandra and Casket Robbery. They didn't play that show, but they were on that tour. Um, and I told Keith, because Keith and I have known each other for quite some time. And I told Keith, I've always liked the band. But this one is such a much bigger step up, in
Yeah.
my opinion. It really feels way more intricate. The structuring of the songs are much more memorable, in my opinion. And that's, that's great for them because they already have, great songs like Scum. You know what I mean? Like they've already been doing that, but now it's just like up to another level, in my
Yeah.
opinion. I
Oh,
really enjoyed it. And I was really surprised too, because I'd spent that whole week listening to the new Suffocation record. And I told him, I was like, I haven't gotten to check the record out yet, but I got to see them play most of it. So, and
yeah.
I was just like, fuck, this is way different.
Yeah, and and it's good to see them. It's nice to see them, right, progress. I like to see any band who's gonna, come out and they're gonna plug away and do their thing, whatever that thing is, and I'm gonna say step outside the box, but it's not necessarily stepping outside the box. It's just trying something new. It might be a producer or, grabbing a different musician or just right
Mhm.
finding that perspective from fellow musicians. Hey, what can we do better?
Yeah.
You
And
know?
I think, yeah, and we're kind of in that ballpark now too with the guy that we're working with. It's the same dude that did the Funeral Corridor, but at that time we were the first band that he'd ever recorded that wasn't his own band. We just liked his own band's product, so we said, yes, let's go down that route. And he was giving us a good deal at the time. Now he's done a lot of recordings and he's done a lot more different things to where we've only recorded one song in the studio right now because we just started last weekend, and he's already pushed that song to a different territory than we anticipated.
Hell yeah.
Like it's funny how I guess I don't know if that's necessarily the case with other bands, but with us it's funny how like we kind of have this product that's so bare bones until we go into the studio, and Michael, will just throw this and that out and it just changes everything entirely, and you just hear it in this different light and it's like, fuck, I did not think it could sound like this. So yeah, always important to have a good producer, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
I
Even
would
if you're good at it yourself and you can do obviously self-production's cool too if you can make it work. But I always think having that second opinion is a beneficial thing.
well, I would agree. I look at it like if you live in a house with 73 dogs and 27 cats, you become nose blind to what's going on in there, and someone from the
Right.
outside, right, is going to say, "Oh, shit. Well, no, you really got to clean this up because it's
Yeah.
terrible, dude."
Yeah.
You know. And not the same with music, but hey, you could
No,
do
I
this
mean, in
better,
a way,
right?
yeah. In a way it is though. You're right. You know what I mean? Like it is important.
Yeah. So you got Recorruptor's got the new album or
Hmm.
working on the new album. What shows do you guys have planned coming up this year?
The only thing that we have firm in the books right now is we're playing in Kalamazoo once again for March 15th at a house venue called the Runoff. We're going to be supporting Mouthful of Locusts and their album release. Necrium's on it. They're a cool tech death band out of that area. And Shakedown is a hardcore band from that area. And I'm not remembering who the other band is, but it'll be a good time, man. I'm really excited. I haven't played a house show since 2015 or 16 maybe. So,
No, it's been a minute.
yeah. Yeah, we've been playing like a lot of legit venues since then, but
Hell
house
yeah.
show will be cool.
That'll be
It'll be
fun.
to get in everybody's face.
It'll get rowdy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But once the record comes out, we're not sure if we're gonna do a big one in Lansing or if we're gonna do two album release shows back to back in Detroit and Grand Rapids, but that'll happen too. And then hopefully touring is the idea.
Hell yeah. So touring, what does that look like? Do you want to get out for like a week?
Probably two.
Okay.
Probably two for starters, depending on, I mean, it's still pretty up in the air because we want to send this one off to see if we can, get some label support
Hmm.
on it, and sign on with management, hopefully. Obviously weigh the options because, that whole game changes every day too. But if that works, it works, and then we'll kind of just go with the flow of what we get offered. But that being said, if we're still independent, we'll probably find another band or two to hit a 2 week run, and we'll probably do the New England route down through to, I don't know if we'll go much farther south in Tennessee, but we would like to route through to Tennessee and then wrap
Okay.
around back through to probably as far west as South Dakota. So kind of a whole Midwest, New England thing.
Yeah. Well, you got to come to Kentucky.
Yeah, for sure. Louisville is one of the only out of state places that we played. So, or technically Florence, but
Okay.
yeah.
So, where'd you guys play at in Florence?
We did a show at a skate park there, Ollie's.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. This was back in 17 or 18, something like that. And one of Dustin's friends had like a whole skate park convention, I guess. I don't know. That sounds lame when you say it like that. But I mean, it was a skate fest,
Gotcha.
Super Session was what it was called. Um that had a few bands play, and there's a couple, yeah, couple like indie bands and stuff, and then they wanted us to play, and we went, and we pretty much just put up right next to the half pipe and just played for all the people that were skating around, and it was pretty cool.
They do a music fest here in one of the skate parks. Actually, there's two that go in skate parks. One's in Riot, LD LBDD Fest or something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which Hatebreed is headlining
Oh wow. Nice.
March. The other one is No Comply, where they do it at the outdoor skate park. And what maybe they've had two so far, and it's like thousands of kids come out and pack that place. It is insane.
That's awesome. Dude, that's so cool. I love stuff like that, man. I love it.
Yeah,
I would
like
definitely do something like that.
Louisville's really got a really solid scene. Brian Omer's Stonecutters just did the split 7-inch release with Bat Wizard,
Okay.
and that show it sold out in like 30 minutes.
That's insane.
Like
Wow.
doors open and they're like turning people away.
Jeez, that's crazy.
It was nuts, dude. It was so awesome. So it would be great to have you guys come and check out actual Louisville's scene.
Yeah,
Not,
for sure. We
not
definitely keep in contact with you about that one. I'll see
well, talk to
yeah,
Omer.
Brian. Yeah,
Yeah,
for
because
sure.
he does Metal Monday at Highland Tap Room, and that thing is it's another one like every Monday night. That place is fucking packed with
Dude, that's
people.
awesome for a Monday. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So, couple of options for you there.
Definitely.
And you guys got a place to crash. You can crash at my place.
Love it.
Oh
Love it.
yeah.
Always appreciate you.
Hell yeah. Well, it's getting late. I gotta
Yeah,
go eat some dinner and feed my dogs and all that good stuff.
for sure. Yep, no
So
worries, man. I appreciate you having me on. It's been fun. It's always fun.
hell yeah. Yeah, it was a great conversation. You know,
Definitely.
all over the place. Really
Yeah.
looking forward to the new Recorruptor stuff.
Thanks, man. It'll be good, I promise.
I'm sure it will, dude. I enjoy it. I enjoy what you have out already. So, all right.
Cool, cool.
Have a great night, Clint.
All
Thanks
right, man.
again.
You too.
See ya.